Once upon a time, parents would shyly hide their eyes when the topic of love was raised in TV shows. In schools, instead of substantive discussion of sexuality education, the only mantra was don't get pregnant or you'll get hurt. Don't do it, you'll get pregnant. For many people, this was the end of sexuality education in Ukraine. But what impact does this have on adult life? And how exactly can competent sex education change our attitude to relationships, self-esteem, and even our worldview? Let's dig deeper. Taboos that are formed from childhood. They don't talk about it. This is the attitude that has accompanied many of us since childhood. As a result, young people entered the world of adult relationships with a lot of fears, shame, and a lot of myths. For example, someone sincerely believed that you could get pregnant from swimming in the same pool with a boyfriend. Lack of information creates cracks not only in knowledge, but also in psychology. People start to feel ashamed of their own bodies, question their attractiveness and ability to be loved. This results in insecurity in relationships and reluctance to talk about their needs. Now let's imagine another scenario. Sexuality education is about freedom and self-awareness. Proper sex education is not only about contraception and reproductive health. It's about understanding your body, your desires, and your boundaries. It is about the ability to say yes and no without fear of judgment. If a young person receives healthy information about sex, they feel more confident. They know that it is normal to have desires, but it is also normal not to have them. They understand that sex should be consensual and bring joy, not guilt or obligation. And this directly affects self-esteem. When you're not ashamed of your body and your desires, you start to radiate confidence. This can be seen in everything, from the way you choose your clothes to the way you build a conversation with your partner. How relationships become toxic without sex education, without understanding the basics of communication in sexual life. Many couples face misunderstandings. People don't know how to talk about their needs, silently endure discomfort, or think that something is wrong with them. One of my friends said, "I was afraid to admit to my boyfriend that I wasn't enjoying myself. I thought he would think I was frigid or weird." Proper sexuality education would have given her the tools to have an open dialogue. It could have strengthened their relationship or given her the strength to end an unhealthy union. Stoicism and sexuality education. An unexpected connection. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control and to let go of what is out of our control. How does this relate to sexuality education? Proper sex education gives us control over our bodies, relationships, and emotions. We begin to understand our limits, realize our desires, and accept ourselves as we are. This is a kind of Stoic approach to understand yourself and act without being judged or fearful. What it looks like in a healthy relationship. Let's imagine a couple who has gone through competent sexuality education. They talk openly about their desires and needs. They know that sex is not a duty, but a choice. They understand how to support each other and respect their partner's boundaries. This is not a utopia. It is a reality that starts with school, family, and society. Sex education is an investment in a happy future. We can close our eyes and continue to ignore this topic, or we can take a step forward and create an environment where young people feel confident in their bodies and relationships. After all, sexuality education is not just about sex. It is about self-love, respect for others, and happy relationships. Echoes of silence. What it leads to. When society avoids the topic of sexuality education, the consequences are felt even decades later. People grow up with vague ideas about their own sexuality, which affects their mental health and self-esteem. Women are afraid to talk about their needs because of stigma. Men often fall into the trap of the misconception that they always have to prove their sexuality. This silence sows insecurity and complexes that last for years. This often manifests itself through toxic behavior or Emotional alienation in relationships. Children who know are adults who understand. Studies show that countries where sexuality education is compulsory in schools have lower rates of unwanted pregnancies and sexual violence. Why? Because young people know their rights, understand their boundaries, and know how to protect themselves. This fundamental knowledge creates mature adults who can build healthy relationships. They are not afraid to ask questions, seek answers, and discuss important topics. Myth: sexuality education encourages early sex. This is one of the biggest misconceptions. In fact, the opposite is true. The more people know about sex, the more responsible they are about it. Studies show that knowledgeable young people are more likely to delay their sexual debut and make informed decisions about their partners. Talking about sex is not about stimulation, but about awareness, self-esteem, and sexuality education, how they are connected. If a child is taught from childhood that their body is normal, they grow up loving themselves. Such a person is not afraid to look in the mirror and see beauty where others see flaws. Sexuality education fosters a healthy attitude towards one's body, helps to realize that appearance is not the main thing, and sexuality is a natural part of our essence. When a person is self-confident, it is felt at the level of their relationships with partners, colleagues, and even friends. They radiate confidence and attract sincere relationships. Sexuality education as a shield against manipulation. When you know your boundaries and rights, it's harder to be forced to do something you don't want to do. Many cases of manipulation in relationships happen because of a lack of knowledge and fear of asking an uncomfortable question. An educated person understands that refusal is not a shame, but a natural right, and consent must be voluntary and mutual. Stoicism and control over your body. The Stoics emphasized the importance of controlling one's desires and emotions, but this did not mean suppressing them. They advised understanding yourself and making informed decisions. Sexuality education gives us the tools to take this Stoic approach. You know your needs, but you don't let them run your life uncontrollably. It's time to change the narrative. There are still societies in the world where the topic of sex is taboo. But silence does not solve problems. It only exacerbates them. In Ukraine, voices are already beginning to be heard for the introduction of quality sexuality education. These initiatives face resistance, but change is inevitable. After all, new generations are hungry for knowledge and are ready to defend their right to information. Your body is your responsibility. Everyone has the right to know about their body and their sexuality. This is a basic right that forms mature, responsible, and self-confident people. Sexuality education is not a whim, but an investment in a healthy society where people are happy in their relationships and confident